This is Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis.
Yeah, it's another special pre-game edition of Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis, getting you revved up and set for game number 2 of the Eastern Conference Final. Washington Capitals, Tampa Bay Lightning, game number 2 set to go with a face-off sometime after 8 p.m. I have often said shortly after 8, which means, 7, 8 minutes past the top of the hour. But what the way we've seen things kind of be dragged out a little bit in the name of television, it might be a little bit later than that. So we'll say it'll be shortly after 8 or a little while after 8. Prior to 8:30, I think is a pretty safe bet, is when we'll get game number 2 started between the Lightning and the Washington Capitals. And hey, I'm certainly hoping for a different kind of game than we saw in game number 1 between these two teams, a 4-2 victory for the Washington Capitals. It was not what I expected at all, for a variety of reasons, I guess, but there were a number of things that took place in game number 1 that had me kind of scratching my head a little bit, sort of wondering what the heck was going on here. So we'll talk more about what took place in game number 1 a couple of days ago. We'll talk more about what took place in game number 1 of the Western Conference Final as well, also a 4-2 game. A 4-2 victory for the Winnipeg Jets over the Vegas Golden Knights. There's a lot of interesting stuff in that series. We'll dive deeper into that as well. We'll get you set with the expected lineups for both teams, the Washington Capitals and the Tampa Bay Lightning. Latest from the morning skate, which had Nick Backstrom of the Caps back on the ice, skating in a red jersey. He, however, did not take line rushes, did stay out, hung around a little longer when most of the regulars had left, took some shots, worked some extra time. He is officially listed as a game time decision. I'm not expecting to see him on the ice. Got some quotes from John Cooper that I found kind of interesting. Some I think may be a little bit of what you would expect to hear from the coach after a game 1 loss, the way the Tampa Bay Lightning had it against the Capitals a couple of nights ago. But we'll dive into that and a whole bunch more. But it's nice that we've got both series underway now. They're pretty captivating, kind of interesting, and it's tough to ask for more than that during the playoffs. If your team doesn't come out on top, if your team doesn't win a particular game, well, I understand that, but you can still, I think, appreciate what has taken place, and we've seen some pretty good hockey, especially now that we're whittled down to the 4 teams. It's pretty something special about what's going on in both the East and in the West. Tampa didn't make the postseason last year. The Capitals were bounced out early. Out west, Winnipeg didn't make the playoffs. Vegas didn't exist. They were an office with a bunch of people on staff and no players. So I think it's pretty good. I'm not sure which was a bigger surprise. Well, they both kind of were, but for different reasons. The 4-2 win on Saturday night by the Winnipeg Jets over the Vegas Golden Knights, or the 4-2 victory by the Washington Capitals over the Tampa Bay Lightning. They were both surprising to me, but for different reasons. We've seen in the postseason that teams that have just wrapped up a series having to play on a quick turnaround, as happened with the Winnipeg Jets, and has happened previously with the Tampa Bay Lightning in the series against the Boston Bruins. You can get good results if you're that team. Doesn't mean that you have to have 3, 4, 5 days off. You can have good results. But what we saw on Friday night, it puzzled me for a couple of reasons, because we had one team that really came to play and the other, I don't know, you can use the expression they were flat. They had a few days off, so they were flat. They weren't crisp. They weren't quite themselves. They were rusty after having so much time off. They did not perform, is maybe how I'll put it, and I think that's the most accurate. I'm not necessarily buying the lack of game readiness because they had so much time off. I'm not buying so much that they were rusty. They did not perform. They did not execute. This was not what I was expecting to see out of the Tampa Bay Lightning. They had 5 days off. Washington Capitals had 4 days off. That's not a great deal of difference. But we saw what was a great deal of difference in the performance of both of those teams. Some people are immediately drawing the response back to round number 2, where the Tampa Bay Lightning went down at the hands of the Boston Bruins in game number 1 of that series. Washington came out in game number 1 of the Eastern Conference Final, and they jumped on the Lightning quick. They had several people suggesting that, oh, it's going to be the same sort of thing. This will be the nice bounce-back game from the Tampa Bay Lightning. And I do expect a better performance. I absolutely do expect a better performance. But this is a different set of circumstances, so I'm a little more hesitant to say that, yep, it's just going to be as it was against the Boston Bruins. It's a little bit different circumstance. The stakes are higher, first of all. You're into the Eastern Conference Final now. You're dealing with a team that had a similar number of days rest, so I think that's a little bit different. Right from the beginning of the game on Friday, the Caps were the better team. That continued for the game. I know that we got some better chances and some better performance from the Tampa Bay Lightning in the third period. They looked better. They started to at least show some greater interest in the game that was being played, but it had been decided at that point. You could tell that nothing substantial was going to happen in the third period. Even though they got a power play goal from Steven Stamkos, even though they got another goal from Andre Palat, there was never a real worry about the Capitals falling behind and losing this game ultimately. John Cooper yanked out Andrei Vasilevsky, sent Louis Domingue in there to mop up things for the final 20 minutes. I think that was a bit of a message to the team that this is unacceptable, and good for him for doing so. I suspect it was a little bit, we're going to need Andrei Vasilevsky as we move forward in the playoffs through the Eastern Conference Final and hopefully into the Stanley Cup Final. There's no need for him to be out there on the ice for another 20 minutes of playing time to absorb this. Give him the rest. There's no need for him to be out on the ice. Braden Holtby barely broke a sweat in the first 40 minutes. 2 shots in the first, 8 shots in the second. Simply not good enough. Nick Backstrom did not play, but that did not seem to matter to the Washington Capitals. They put in another good performance, give them credit where it's due. They played a structured and disciplined game. They were strong out on the ice. They got Tom Wilson back up on the top line with Alexander Ovechkin and Evgeny Kuznetsov. They performed well. Wilson was involved in the game and a factor, but he wasn't the distraction that he has been at a number of times. In fact, it was the Tampa Bay Lightning that were kind of starting to throw their weight around a little bit in game number 1 against the Washington Capitals, and I think that's a sign that they're off their game. You want physical play, but you want it in puck battles. You want physical play when it's getting to the front of the net. You want physical play when it's trying to guide the Washington Capitals players to an area of where you would rather they be on the ice than their intended destination. Throwing big hits, throwing your weight around, that's not Tampa's game. There is a physical nature to the game, but it's not through throwing big hits. And I really gave this a lot of thought after game number 1. I gave it a lot of thought through Saturday, and I'm still of the mind, I don't think it happened, but I am still of the mind that it might have been a good thing. I really think that if he had gone outside of his personality, it would have been appropriate for Lightning head coach John Cooper to go off on his team about this one. He is not the scream and yell, blow up once a day kind of coach, the way so many are in hockey in general, not just in the National Hockey League. He is calm, he is rational, he is measured in his remarks. This might have been the time for him to go off and light a stick of dynamite and toss it into the middle of the room. And I say that just because I want to make sure that you are focused in game number 2. He'll know the right recipe. And again, I don't expect that he did that. I think that his quotes and comments about game number 1 are a little telling, and they do not involve raising your voice, profanity, or anything like that. But I think it would have been okay to do something like this to get your team's attention. They did not execute the way we have seen. They did not have the effort that was necessary to compete at this level and at this point in the season. That's why I'm saying it might not have been a bad idea for this little attention getter and this little explosion of walking in and kicking over a few garbage cans and maybe tossing something at the wall. A reminder that the Lightning job is only half done. They've only got 2 victories in terms of series. They have 2 more that are necessary to complete their ultimate goal. They're aware of that, but just that little reminder may have been a good thing in those cases. We didn't see that, though. I think, again, John Cooper, fairly measured in his remarks. A couple of his quotes between the end of game number 1 and the start of game number 2. Quote, "It's unfortunate how we played a couple of these game 1s in the last couple of rounds, dug ourselves a small hole in this series." Now, that is coach speak at its finest. That's understanding what has taken place in game number 1, and that is not belaboring it. That's understanding that you are now down 1 in the series, but not making a big deal about it, in public especially. Further quotes from John Cooper. "I guess the positive side is we've been here before, so we've seen this. But we can't keep playing with fire and dropping these game 1s, which we've done. All of a sudden, you've thrown home ice advantage back at them. Now you've put pressure on yourself. You got to go win games on the road, which you have to do anyway in the playoffs, but your margin for error gets smaller and smaller. We're really going to need a good effort today, Sunday." Again, this is what he is saying for public consumption. I'm sure he has had similar things to the team, to the players. It's just how you express that sentiment. More words from John Cooper, the head coach of the Tampa Bay Lightning. "We dissected the game a little bit. There were so many good things we've done in 2 rounds of hockey that I think if you bottled up all the bad things in those first 10 games, it would be about half of what we did in that 1 game last night." This from Saturday when Coach Cooper spoke. And I think that is really telling. That, as much as anything, is really telling about what John Cooper thought of his team. Poor execution. They did not seem mentally fatigued. They did not seem mentally engaged in game number 1. And that's part of why I'm slightly more concerned after dropping game number 1 in the Eastern Conference Final against the Capitals than when they dropped game number 1 in the second round of the playoffs against the Boston Bruins. There did not seem that same attention to detail, that same sharpness of focus on the task at hand, especially through the first 2 periods. It started to come. And that's disappointing. And that's the frustrating part for me. One more quote from Tampa Bay head coach John Cooper. "You fueled the fire in a good team. And that's what Washington is. I thought a lot of their opportunities we just handed them. And a lot of our opportunities were stomped out just by our not sticking to our plan of what's worked." There again, more telling information from the coach. There was a lack of focus. There was a lack of attention to detail. This was not the Tampa Bay Lightning that we had become used to during the regular season. This was not the Tampa Bay Lightning that we had seen through the first 2 rounds of the playoffs. Sure, there were moments as we looked at round 1 against the New Jersey Devils and round 2 against the Boston Bruins, where I was a little puzzled that we didn't see a more complete game from the Lightning. But what we saw in game number 1 of the Eastern Conference Final, I found more concerning. I do expect a better effort. I do expect a better game. I want it to be enough that the series is even as we head into game number 3 Tuesday in Washington. Because what happens now as well, Tampa's going to have a better game. They will have a little more focus. I still think, I know that not everyone will agree, and I'm not one to scream and yell on a regular basis, and that's why I think it would be somewhat appropriate in this case for Coach Cooper to knock over a garbage can or 2, scream and yell a little bit, maybe use a bad word here or 2, just to make sure his team is focused on the task at hand. Because what's also going to happen is I expect Washington Capitals to play a better game in game number 2. They had some good fortune go in their direction. They had some fortunate moments in game number 1 that resulted in pucks in the net against the Tampa Bay Lightning. A whiff on a shot, the puck is out front. Oh, thank you very much as Jay Beagle tucks it in. Lars Eller, the 4th goal of the game for the Washington Capitals. The puck finds him, and he happens to be in the right position at the right time, and in it goes. There were some other, again, mental lapses, mental errors, lack of attention to detail, lack of focus. And the 2nd goal by Alex Ovechkin on the power play, late in the 1st period, is another one that I'll draw attention to. There are seconds left. You understand what the play is. On the power play, it's win a face-off, and you can circle him. You don't really need to because he draws an awful lot of attention. The puck is going to go to Alex Ovechkin if that's possible, if the draw can be won cleanly, if a pass can be made, and he's going to have one shot before the end of the period. Everyone in the building, everyone watching and listening understands what is going to happen. A lack of attention, a lack of focus on those details, that's what allows it to happen. That play doesn't happen if the draw is not won cleanly. Simply hold up the center for a second and not allow him a clean face-off win, that play does not happen. It, of course, was the real gut punch because of what happened had previously. Nikita Kucherov at the end of a Tampa power play and as part of a line change that went kaboom, finds himself breaking in, and it looks like he has put the puck past Braden Holtby, but the play is whistled by a linesman who does make the correct call that there are too many men on the ice, and it was clear to see not only does the goal not count, but the Washington Capitals find themselves on that power play. That quick twist in such a short period of time is also part of it. But why did that happen? Why did the line change happen that resulted in too many skaters on the ice? Lack of attention to detail, lack of focus, not being sharp, not understanding who's coming off the ice and who should be going on. I do expect a better effort. I do think that Tampa will have a much better game. I also think that Washington will have a better game. I don't think it's a slam dunk. I think that there has to be execution, and I think the level of play has to be raised to keep moving forward in the postseason. We're going to talk more about the Tampa Bay Lightning and the Washington Capitals, get you the expected lineups for both teams before the hour is out. I do want to talk about some of the other things going on in the National Hockey League as well, some interesting and captivating stories from the Western Conference Final, which opened up on Saturday night in Winnipeg. And I know there's a number of folks in the East who have not seen a lot of the Western Conference, and especially a lot of the Winnipeg Jets, because, you know, Winnipeg's not a sexy city. It has a reputation, and it's not necessarily the most flattering, but I'll tell you something. When you've got 45,000 fans in a vicinity to watch a hockey game, that's something pretty special. At Hockey Unfiltered, at Todd Lewis Sports, our Twitter and Instagram handles. Shoot us a comment if you wish. We'll try and answer some of your questions through our Facebook page as well, where we are streaming live along with hockeyunfiltered.com and on the Hockey Unfiltered app. We're getting you set for puck drop between the Washington Capitals and Tampa Bay Lightning, game number 2. Happy Mother's Day. Happy Mother's Day. Mom would want you to watch the game tonight. In fact, she should be sitting down and probably will be sitting down with you and enjoying the game and all that there is. I mean, the brunch is over now, right? That's what goes on Mother's Day. Everybody does the big brunch thing. That's the thing. Some do dinner, I guess, but the brunch is the big thing. So now you and Mom can focus on the game that's set to take place tonight, because it's an important one. At Hockey Unfiltered, at Todd Lewis Sports, our Twitter and Instagram handles. Back with much more on this special pre-game edition of Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis right after the break.
Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis sends you to the biggest events at the best prices. This year, we've partnered with Seat Giant to give you special deals on tickets to NHL games, concerts, or other events. Simply go to SeatGiant.com, find the tickets you want. When you check out, use the promo code TODD for a special discount. That's promo code TODD for a special discount. Start saving with SeatGiant.com on your next purchase. Get your business started getting more leads. 1-844-SEO-LEAD. The number to call if you want more online leads for your business is 1-844-SEO-LEAD. Search engine optimization can be the difference between success and failure. It's no coincidence which businesses are listed first in Google searches. Call 1-844-SEO-LEAD. Now it's even easier to nominate your dog as the Hockey Unfiltered Dog of the Day. We do it every Saturday. Send us a photo on Twitter or now on Instagram with the hashtag HU Dog of the Day. We choose a winner every Saturday. That's simple. Now on Instagram or Twitter, send us the photo using the hashtag HU Dog of the Day, and your dog could be the one added to our gallery on the website and Facebook page. It's the Hockey Unfiltered Dog of the Day every Saturday. Cutting-edge design for manufacturing, Nova Product Design. Industrial design, mechanical engineering and design. Nova Product Design provides experienced design for parts and assemblies, manufacturing, assembly, and serviceability. From plastic parts to sheet metal forming, mold and tool design, injection molding, and more. Nova Product Design. Visit novaproductdesign.com to learn more. So you had to get groceries, take your daughter to dance class, and a pipe burst in the kitchen. You missed Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis. No problem. All of our shows are available as a podcast right after the show airs, so you can listen when life gets in the way of hearing us live. Subscribe through iTunes and get alerts as soon as the podcast is available, or go to our website, hockeyunfiltered.com, and listen. Plus, check out the other cool stuff. The Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis podcast. Subscribe now through iTunes.
Welcome back. It's a special pregame edition, Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis, getting set for game number 2 of the Eastern Conference Final. Tampa Bay Lightning hosting the Washington Capitals. Caps victorious 4-2 in game number 1. Yes, we're all expecting a better game, a better effort from the Tampa Bay Lightning. It was disappointing in game number 1 to only see 10 shots through the first 2 periods. A little bit better into the third period, but the outcome was not really in doubt at that point. We'll look for a better game. I think we'll get a better game from Washington too, and I think it'll be exciting. We've had a lot of drama and a lot of twists and turns throughout the Stanley Cup playoffs so far. I'm expecting more of them this evening as the Tampa Bay Lightning and Washington Capitals have game number 2 of the Eastern Conference Final. Saw plenty of it in game number 1 of the Western Conference Final as well. Man, that was exciting. I mentioned just before the break, there were an enormous number of people inside and outside of Bell MTS Place in Winnipeg, Manitoba. The place only holds just over 15,000. They had 27,000 more outside. 27,000 people. How do I know that? Because they were handing out tickets. They had to close off the streets. They have big screens and everything all set up, but they had to close off the street so they could have the big viewing party outside, and they had to hand out tickets so that they didn't overcrowd the place, and they had to stop at 27,000. Could have handed out more. Freebies. Don't charge you to get in. It's absolutely sensational. Did a flyover by the Royal Canadian Air Force and stuff prior to the game. I think it was excellent. Just really good. In fact, it was a little like 2 games in the Winnipeg and Vegas opener, because the momentum shifted back from back and forth in this one. Winnipeg jumped out to the quick lead, 2 quick goals. Dustin Byfuglien with a full clapper winds up in the net 90 seconds in, past Marc-Andre Fleury. They put another one in, and then a third goal is scored, but that one takes some discussion and some video review to determine whether or not it is going to be allowed. Kelly Sutherland, the referee on the ice, waves it off immediately, citing goaltender interference. And then we go to the video, and we wait, and we wait, and we wait. And about 3 hours later, when they complete the video review process, they overturn his ruling of goaltender interference, and the goal is allowed to stand, and Winnipeg's got a 3-0 lead, and they're halfway through the first period, and the snowball is headed downhill in a very quick fashion. Now, I say in jest that it took 3 hours to decide the video outcome. This was a multi-layered review, and that kind of process does take a little bit of time, so I'll cut you some slack on that. It did seem to take a little while, though. I will give referee Kelly Sutherland credit as well for trying to make announcements and keep people included in what was going on and what was being reviewed. First, they reviewed whether or not the puck was kicked into the net. It was not. And then the review came on a coach's challenge from Winnipeg head coach Paul Maurice that I don't think that was goaltender interference. I think you're going to overturn that one. So that meant another review to ensure that they got the call right. So I'm a little bit torn in terms of how long it took, which was, depending on when you started timing, 6, maybe 7 minutes, which is substantial, and getting the call right. I always want the call to be right. I understand that sometimes it takes a little longer, and when you're dealing with a legal document, which the NHL rulebook is, you have to go through the legalese and the procedures to apply the law correctly. This one took a little while. I do think it was applied correctly, though. There was a touch of the goaltender going as the play was happening, but the puck was already on its way into the net before there was any contact. I think it was the right call, and I think there is one other area that we're going to have to determine and rationalize, that if you touch the goaltender, it's got to be a goaltender interference penalty. Because right now we see calls that have incidental contact. Does that mean he just happened to be cruising through the neighborhood and accidentally bumped shoulders? Like when you're walking down the street and there's someone coming toward you and you both turn, but not quite far enough, and you sometimes accidentally brush shoulders with someone. Is that what incidental contact is? I'm not really feeling that. I think there's got to be a little more clarity there, and that if it's goaltender interference, there's a penalty. I would certainly cut down on the number of video reviews too, don't you think? Maybe something to consider for the offseason. However, I do think that the long delay and the long period of time it took for the NHL offices to review and decide to overturn the call and allow the goal was, in that sense, positive for the Vegas Golden Knights, because it allowed them to kind of catch their breath and absorb all that was going on around them and get their feet under them a little bit. They'd had 6 days off, I believe, since their series concluded against the San Jose Sharks, and they were pretty overwhelmed by all the atmosphere inside the building. And it's understandable. We saw the Winnipeg Jets overwhelmed by it in game number 6 of their series against the Nashville Predators. There was so much noise and so much going on, and it was just it got to them. They collapsed under what they felt was pressure, but was actually support and love and excitement and anticipation for a series win. It didn't work out that way. And the Vegas Golden Knights were feeling some of that unbelievable atmosphere and pressure as they went into game number 1 against the Winnipeg Jets. So the long delay, while it had a goal go against them, did benefit them, and it allowed them to kind of get their stuff together. Their heads were spinning. They were absolutely, well, your head was spinning more in that game than it would have been on a weekend binge through Vegas. The long delay and the long review process allowed them to kind of sort themselves out a little bit. And they jumped on Winnipeg right after the long delay and play resumed, because they scored a quick one on Connor Hellebuck, and all of a sudden it's a 3-1 game. And you're thinking, all right, maybe they're going to start to reel this thing in a little bit. But that's what we saw happen. And then there was another goal from each team, and we came up with a 4-2 result. So no doubt we will see a better and a closer game on Monday when these two reconvene for game number 2 of the Western Conference Final as well. And what we might be seeing in the Western Conference Final between the Jets and the Knights was the matchup that we had hoped to see between the Nashville Predators and the Winnipeg Jets, the two top teams not only in the Western Conference, but in the league. Everybody had hopes that this second round series was going to be something special and it was going to be the best one. And people were complaining that the playoff system didn't allow for it to happen as a conference final. Well, I think the Vegas Golden Knights and the Winnipeg Jets have the potential to be that series. Two teams with an awful lot of skill that play a high-speed, high-tempo game. I think this series does have the potential to be that one. Watching the first period, especially of that game, we saw initially it was Winnipeg that was taking it to Vegas, all kinds of offense, power plays, scoring. The goaltending has been sensational from both of these teams. As well as Connor Hellebuck has played, Marc-Andre Fleury has been even better for the Vegas Golden Knights. He's got 4 shutouts in the postseason, and even with the 4-2 loss endured in game number 1 against the Winnipeg Jets, his goals against average is 1.73 in the postseason. His save percentage, an extraordinary .943. And we have seen on a number of occasions the Vegas Golden Knights have offense. Oh, do they have offense? They can score. Wild Bill Karlsson scored on a power play goal in game number 1 on Saturday night. The defense for both teams is where I see the greatest discrepancy. Winnipeg has a stellar defensive lineup. Dustin Byfuglien, Jacob Trouba, Tyler Myers, Toby Enstrom. When you can roll those 4 guys over the boards, that's a pretty good top 4. Knights have some good players. They've got Nate Schmidt. They've got Shea Theodore. They've got Braden McNabb, but that group is not quite at the same elite level as some of those Winnipeg Jets defensemen are. If you haven't seen a lot of the Jets so far, check it out and enjoy it. I've been talking about this team for a while. The enthusiasm in the building, and going back through the last weeks of the regular season, it has continued to build through the first 2 rounds of the playoffs. The whiteout in Winnipeg is back. It was with the original Jets franchise. It is back. They did manage to find 2 people wearing Vegas Golden Knights apparel last night, but I think they were the only 2 in the building. And no, I wouldn't fear for their safety because, Winnipeg's a friendly city. I don't think there's any reason for that. But it's something to see. And also on defense, and I mentioned Dustin Byfuglien and the huge force that he has been so far for the Winnipeg Jets. He has 5 goals and 10 assists in the postseason. That is tied for second on the team lead. He is playing the way he did when the Chicago Blackhawks won their first Stanley Cup in 2010. Well, not their first Stanley Cup, but one of their 3 most recent Stanley Cups in 2010. And Dustin Byfuglien was a member of that team. The Hawks and the Jets, I'm drawing a parallel. I see the same sort of thing. A team that took some time to build, have a lot of emerging young superstars, little bit of veteran help. The Winnipeg Jets remind me an awful lot of that Chicago Blackhawks team. Blake Wheeler has endured a lot. He was with the Boston Bruins and traded away just before they won their Stanley Cup in 2011. He managed to survive the franchise in Atlanta, relocated with them to Winnipeg, has become captain of the team, and has become a force as well. He is playing the best hockey of his career. And Mark Scheifele, who has continued to blossom over the last couple of years, he is one of the best centers in the National Hockey League. Speed, skill, plays in all situations. More good young talent behind them as well, whether it's Patrick Laine, Kyle Connor, Nikolai Ehlers. Their power play is sensational. Mark Scheifele, though, has 12 goals so far in the postseason. That's through 2 rounds plus 1 game, 12 goals. The record for most goals in the postseason in this century is held by Sidney Crosby with 15. The NHL record is 19. If Winnipeg keeps winning, he's going to challenge that all-time record. And it's going to be fun to watch for all of us. A lot more to come on the Eastern Conference Final as well. Game number 2 set to go at Amalie Arena. Puck drop sometime after 8 o'clock. Lightning hosting the Washington Capitals. Caps with a victory in game number 1, 4-2 the score. I'm expecting a different kind of game tonight. Much more on the game tonight. What we may see, some of the keys to the game, expected lineups for both teams as well. I do want to squeeze in some other stuff that's gone on around in the NHL as well, because it's making me shake my head a little bit and making me smile and making me giggle and making me laugh at the hysterical Toronto media, quite frankly. At Hockey Unfiltered, at Todd Lewis Sports, our Twitter and Instagram handles. Todd at hockeyunfiltered.com is the email. Special pregame edition, Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis, in advance of Game 2 of the Eastern Conference Final, continues right after the break.
Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis sends you to the biggest events at the best prices. This year, we've partnered with Seat Giant to give you special deals on tickets to NHL games, concerts, or other events. Simply go to SeatGiant.com, find the tickets you want. When you check out, use the promo code TODD for a special discount. That's promo code TODD for a special discount. Start saving with SeatGiant.com on your next purchase. Get your business started getting more leads. 1-844-SEO-LEAD. The number to call if you want more online leads for your business is 1-844-SEO-LEAD. Search engine optimization can be the difference between success and failure. It's no coincidence which businesses are listed first in Google searches. Call 1-844-SEO-LEAD. Now it's even easier to nominate your dog as the Hockey Unfiltered Dog of the Day. We do it every Saturday. Send us a photo on Twitter or now on Instagram with the hashtag HU Dog of the Day. We choose a winner every Saturday. That's simple. Now on Instagram or Twitter, send us the photo using the hashtag HU Dog of the Day, and your dog could be the one added to our gallery on the website and Facebook page. It's the Hockey Unfiltered Dog of the Day every Saturday. Cutting-edge design for manufacturing, Nova Product Design. Industrial design, mechanical engineering and design. Nova Product Design provides experienced design for parts and assemblies, manufacturing, assembly, and serviceability. From plastic parts to sheet metal forming, mold and tool design, injection molding, and more. Nova Product Design. Visit novaproductdesign.com to learn more. So you had to get groceries, take your daughter to dance class, and a pipe burst in the kitchen. You missed Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis. No problem. All of our shows are available as a podcast right after the show airs, so you can listen when life gets in the way of hearing us live. Subscribe through iTunes and get alerts as soon as the podcast is available, or go to our website, hockeyunfiltered.com, and listen. Plus, check out the other cool stuff, the Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis podcast. Subscribe now through iTunes.
It's a special pregame edition of Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis, in advance Game number 2 of the Eastern Conference Final. Washington Capitals in Tampa to take on the Lightning. The Tampa Bay Lightning and Washington Capitals will face off a little after 8 p.m. at Hockey Unfiltered, at Todd Lewis Sports, our Twitter and Instagram handles. If you listen to the program regularly during our weekend programs on Saturday and Sunday, we run live at 11 Eastern, 8 a.m. Pacific. Of course, we're always available through our website as a podcast, through the Hockey Unfiltered app as well. I have many times expressed frustration about trying to find some good hockey coverage and difficulty with some, and the frustration that arises with the clickbait and trolling kind of hockey coverage that we see far too much of. It frustrates me to no end. There's some terrific people that cover the Lightning, and Joe Smith is fantastic with the Athletic. Eric Erlinson, Lightning Insider, is tremendous. Brian Burns is terrific. Kaylee Chelios I really like, and I know I'm leaving out a few, but there's a whole bunch of them. There's good people that cover the Lightning, and there's so much attention on the center of the hockey universe. I believe that's a self-proclaimed title by Toronto and Toronto area coverage. And there's a whole bunch of it that's been churned out in the last couple of days since Brendan Shanahan, the president of the Toronto Maple Leafs, named Kyle Dubas as the new general manager of the hockey team. He takes over from Lou Lamoriello, who had a 3-year deal to be the general manager. And Brendan Shanahan a couple of weeks ago said that we're going to proceed with the plan and we will name a new general manager. Kyle Dubas has been the assistant general manager for a number of years. And I saw one story that said, oh, there might be trouble, there might be difficulty with this, and it's through the Toronto Star, and I almost hate to give it notice because I'm afraid some people might click on it. And now the stupid social media has gone even a step further. Not that something might happen or something could be bubbling the way the article says about the new general manager. It says it's expected. It's expected there will be difficulty. What a bunch of nonsense. And it only goes to reinforce that Brendan Shanahan is so much smarter than anyone covering the team that it's laughable that this nonsense continues to get churned out. Brendan Shanahan came into the team as president. He had a plan. He continues to execute it. As mentioned, Lou Lamoriello had a deal to be the general manager for 3 years. That deal has continued in the same fashion as expected, that Lou Lamoriello would move into an advisory role. Whether he stays or not is something that's up for debate. Kyle Dubas was the assistant general manager. He has been elevated to the position of general manager. Now, if anyone else had had a successful career as a junior hockey general manager and as an American Hockey League general manager, it wouldn't be such a big deal if they were elevated to the level of general manager of an NHL team, I don't believe. Yet, when it's the Toronto Maple Leafs, we manufacture controversy where there is none, is the saying of the people that cover it, I believe, on many occasions. Oh my gosh, the nonsense that's been going on. It's hysterical. Well, it's hysterical and it's also pitiful at times too. Kyle Dubas, very successful as the general manager of the Toronto Marlies American Hockey League team. He's been elevated. And now it's like, oh, well, what's going to happen with Mark Hunter, who is also the assistant general manager? Sure, he would have taken the job, wanted the job, interviewed for it. Kyle Dubas was given the job because Brendan Shanahan has a plan. Lou Lamoriello was brought in when the Maple Leafs were an absolute dumpster fire 3 years ago. That organization was a mess. It was worse than many people have even tried to imagine. Structure, discipline was lacking, and that's what Lou Lamoriello brought. And Kyle Dubas was an impressive star on the rise through the junior hockey ranks. He was brought in-house to the Maple Leafs to work with the American Hockey League team and also to learn from Lou Lamoriello, from the head coach Mike Babcock, from assistant general manager Mark Hunter, from president Brendan Shanahan. He's now been apprenticing for 3 years within the organization. Why is it such a big deal that he was elevated to general manager? 2 reasons. When he came in, he was the GM of the Sioux Greyhounds in the Ontario Hockey League, and he used analytics to try to look at things from a different perspective to give his team an advantage. Well, if you do anything different, you're going to be pointed at and ridiculed in hockey. And the other key point, he's 32 years old, and I'm not going to say that anymore because it's irrelevant. Because if you're young, it doesn't disqualify you from being qualified and capable of doing the job. And that's what Kyle Dubas is. It's hysterical, the nonsense that has gone on. Brendan Shanahan has a plan, and he has raised the bar within the organization farther than it has been in decades, which also hasn't been recognized completely yet. Maple Leafs have been in the playoffs for the last 2 years, and we can comfortably say they're a good team. Their goals are higher than that. If Lou Lamoriello had stayed the general manager, they would not have been able to elevate further. His best days are behind him. Kyle Dubas is a general manager who's working into the future. If you are always looking behind you for answers to your questions, you will not find them. Sure, you can learn from history, but the answers to your questions are ahead of you, not behind you. He's had a chance to apprentice under some of the best people in the business. He's had a chance to learn. And Brendan Shanahan has done it his way. He is smarter than anyone has even taken notice of because he's not seeking the spotlight. He's not in the spotlight. You only hear from him once, twice, maybe 3 times a year. When he has an announcement to make, like I've got a new general manager, that's when you hear from him. At the end of a season, at the start of a season, that's about it. After hearing Kyle Dubas speak, I am even more convinced that he will be successful. Doesn't guarantee a Stanley Cup, doesn't necessarily mean that you'll be a perennial cup contender, but he has the tools, the talent, the ability to be successful. Brendan Shanahan is the kind of person that you want to work for, much like Jeff Vinik and his approach with the Tampa Bay Lightning. Hire good people, let them do their job. Give them the tools, give them the support necessary to do the job. And don't meddle and screw around and get in the middle of what they're doing. Let them do their job. In fact, that would be a good parallel. The stories are somewhat different, but Kyle Dubas being elevated to general manager of the Toronto Maple Leafs very much reminds me of Steve Yzerman when he was hired by the Tampa Bay Lightning to take over as that team. Smart hockey person, apprenticed with a good organization and good people for a number of years and learned an awful lot and was given the support and the tools and the resources necessary to succeed when he was put in the position of authority. The two are very comparable. And the question now is like, well, what's going to happen with Mike Babcock? Someone who is competitive and wants to win isn't going to be a closed-minded individual. Sure, they're going to have strong opinions. They're going to have ideas of what they like and what they want to do. Doesn't mean that they are closed off and resistant to new ideas. In fact, I would consider them to be quite the opposite. That's why Mike Babcock meets with CEOs of companies to find out if there's something that's done in a business that might be transferable to his world in hockey. That's why he goes and meets players during the offseason. What about Mark Hunter? He wanted the job. He's worked with Kyle Dubas for the last 4 years. You're right. And his attention and focus has always been find the players. That's his job, find the players. Assistant general manager, and he's in charge of finding players, scouting, development. That's his job. He'll find players. That's his strength. If he decides at some point he wants to leave, well, then you always have to keep looking for good people. If you have good people, there will be opportunities for them in other organizations, and at some point, some of them are going to leave. You have to be prepared for that. Why would you name Kyle Dubas the general manager, even though it hadn't been resolved what might happen with Lou Lamoriello or what might happen with Mark Hunter? Because Brendan Shanahan knows that's the right choice and that's the right decision. And what happens with those two doesn't change picking the right person to be in charge and have that job. I'm anxious to see how this plays out. I think it's going to be great. I think there's going to be all kinds of controversy and nonsense that they're going to attempt to manufacture. And the Maple Leafs, in the meantime, will chuckle to themselves and move on. It's fun. But it's I do think that there's a good comparison between Steve Yzerman and the time he came in and the job he's done with the Tampa Bay Lightning and how it may wind up playing in Toronto. At Hockey Unfiltered, at Todd Lewis Sports Twitter and Instagram handles. More to come on game number 2 of the Eastern Conference Final between the Capitals and the Tampa Bay Lightning. Oh, yes. Puck drop will be a little bit after 8 p.m. Don't forget, we'll be back for pregame shows, special pregame editions of Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis on Tuesday and Wednesday as well. Same game time of a little after 8 p.m. Eastern. Our program will also begin just about 3:30 p.m. Eastern time, both Tuesday and Thursday as well. Our final segment for Sunday coming back right after the break.
Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis sends you to the biggest events at the best prices. This year, we've partnered with Seat Giant to give you special deals on tickets to NHL games, concerts, or other events. Simply go to SeatGiant.com, find the tickets you want. When you check out, use the promo code TODD for a special discount. That's promo code TODD for a special discount. Start saving with SeatGiant.com on your next purchase. Get your business started getting more leads. 1-844-SEO-LEAD. The number to call if you want more online leads for your business is 1-844-SEO-LEAD. Search engine optimization can be the difference between success and failure. It's no coincidence which businesses are listed first in Google searches. Call 1-844-SEO-LEAD. Now it's even easier to nominate your dog as the Hockey Unfiltered Dog of the Day. We do it every Saturday. Send us a photo on Twitter or now on Instagram with the hashtag HU Dog of the Day. We choose a winner every Saturday. That's simple. Now on Instagram or Twitter, send us the photo using the hashtag HU Dog of the Day, and your dog could be the one added to our gallery on the website and Facebook page. It's the Hockey Unfiltered Dog of the Day every Saturday. Cutting-edge design for manufacturing, Nova Product Design. Industrial design, mechanical engineering and design. Nova Product Design provides experienced design for parts and assemblies, manufacturing, assembly, and serviceability. From plastic parts to sheet metal forming, mold and tool design, injection molding, and more. Nova Product Design. Visit novaproductdesign.com to learn more. So you had to get groceries, take your daughter to dance class, and a pipe burst in the kitchen. You missed Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis. No problem. All of our shows are available as a podcast right after the show airs, so you can listen when life gets in the way of hearing us live. Subscribe through iTunes and get alerts as soon as the podcast is available, or go to our website, hockeyunfiltered.com, and listen. Plus, check out the other cool stuff. The Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis podcast. Subscribe now through iTunes.
Final segment of our Tampa Bay Lightning Power Play pregame show in advance of game number 2 of the Eastern Conference Final, Washington Capitals and Tampa Bay Lightning. It's Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis. We'll be back again for pregame shows on Tuesday and Thursday as well, beginning at the same time, 3:30 p.m. Eastern Time. Getting you set for games 3 and 4 when the Lightning hit the road. I'm expecting a better game tonight. Yes, I'm expecting a better game from the Tampa Bay Lightning after a very disappointing effort, we'll call it, especially in periods number 1 and 2 of game number 1. I think we'll see some different things. I think we'll see a better game from the Washington Capitals as well. I think we'll see some keys to the game that will be the focus of the Lightning, and they haven't really changed much from game number 1. Top line's got to keep going. Yes, Steven Stamkos did have a power play goal. The line of JT Miller, Steven Stamkos, Nikita Kucherov, they need to produce as they did in the final couple of games against the Boston Bruins. Stamkos did have that power play goal. Andre Palat had a goal later in the game as well, but you didn't really feel that the outcome was going to change or the outcome was in doubt for the Washington Capitals. Also, you need to have the second line, which has been performing like the first line, continue to produce some offense as well. We're not dealing with a dreadful game number 1 where Braden Point is a -5, and I think that was kind of unfairly hung on him after game number 1. But you do need that line to give you a little bit of offensive production as well. It's worth noting, again, there was some good fortune by the Washington Capitals in game number 1 as well, where a couple of their goals went in. But be prepared, because Washington's got an unbelievable road record going in this postseason. They are 6-1 in the postseason. Here's the lines again. Miller, Stamkos, and Kucherov, Palat, Point, and Johnson, Killorn, Cirelli, and Gourde, Kunitz, Paquette, and Callahan make up the 4 forward lines, the 3 defense pairings, Hedman and Girardi, McDonough, Strawman, Coburn, and Sergachev. It'll be Andrei Vasilevsky in goal. For the Washington Capitals, expect much of the same thing. Nick Backstrom was on the ice for the morning skate. He did have on a red jersey. He did not participate in line rushes and did stay afterwards for extra time on the ice. Did manage to take some shots, though, but I am not expecting him in the lineup. So Ovechkin, Kuznetsov, and Wilson should be the top line. Lars Eller was elevated, and he's been between Jacob Verana and TJ Oshie. Burakovsky back in the lineup for game number 1 after suffering an injury. He was noticeable as well. Burakovsky, Stevenson, and Connolly is the third line. Devontae Smith-Pelly, Jay Beagle, and Chiasson will be the fourth line. Kempney and Carlson, Orlov and Niskanen, Orpik and Juice, the 3 defense pairings, and Braden Holtby as well. Well, if you want to know the goaltender stats, they're pretty good. For Braden Holtby, 2.04 goals against average, a .925 save percentage. Andrei Vasilevsky, though, even with the unflattering game number 1 of the Eastern Conference Final, still has a goals against average of 2.43 and a .920 save percentage. Both admirable. Here's the one statistic, though. that you'll take note of for game number 2. This is the only statistic that you need to know about game number 2 between the Lightning and the Washington Capitals, set to go a little after 8. And maybe this is how Coach John Cooper reached out to get the attention of his team, have them refocus, have them be mentally sharp, how to play up to their capabilities and get the kind of game from the Lightning that we know they are capable of and that we were expecting in game number 1 and didn't see. Here's the only stat you need to know. Teams that take a 2-0 series lead in the conference finals or semifinals, if you prefer. This goes back to the mid-70s, the 1974-75 season. Teams that take a 2-0 series lead hold an all-time series record of 39-2. That is just over 95% success rate. So I don't know that there is a better way to express the importance of game number 2 in terms of the Tampa Bay Lightning. Now, of course, there's going to be the immediate attention as well that, well, you know what? Even if it happens, I don't believe it will. Even if it happens, Washington Capitals dropped the first 2 games of their series against the Columbus Blue Jackets. Came back, won the next 4. So yes, it is possible, but the stakes are higher there. You do not want to put yourself into that type of position. You're now into the Eastern Conference Final. You have worked so hard through the regular season, making adjustments in lines, bringing in players at the deadline to help bolster a couple of areas where you thought you could use a bit of extra attention. You worked through the first 2 rounds of the postseason, defeating the New Jersey Devils in 5 games, and then working hard to defeat the Boston Bruins in 5 games after dropping game number 1. John Cooper said it, that they've kind of dug a hole for themselves. They've kind of made their job a little bit more difficult, something that they certainly didn't need or want to do. It's unfortunate. It's happened again in the Eastern Conference Final, but the Tampa Bay Lightning are up to the task. I expect a better game from the Tampa Bay Lightning. I expect a focused, sharp team to hit the ice. I do expect the Washington Capitals will also be paying attention. It's been a different kind of Washington Capitals team that we have seen through the first couple of rounds of the postseason. First of all, they beat the Pittsburgh Penguins, something that they have not been able to find a way to do. They have been kryptonite to the Washington Capitals for the past couple of seasons, but they found a way to break through. The level of expectation on the Caps this season, it wasn't as high, and maybe that has been a bit of a release of the pressure valve that had been building up for a couple of seasons. Didn't make any big splash trades at the deadline. Did make some acquisitions, but it's a different Washington Capitals team, and I expect it will be a better effort in game number 2 by the Washington Capitals as well. I'm excited about it. I think it's going to be an exciting game. The excitement went out of game number 1 quickly because it didn't seem like both teams were committed to playing at a high level. And that was disappointing and frustrating, but I expect to see that in game number 2 tonight as Tampa gets set to host Washington. The Eastern Conference Finals will continue, and then as the series shifts to Washington for games Tuesday and Wednesday, we'll be back with other pregame editions of Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis, another 1-hour edition coming up Tuesday, and then again at Thursday, 3:30 p.m. Eastern Time, 12:30 Pacific. Enjoy game number 2. One more happy Mother's Day to all the moms out there, and Mom would want you to enjoy and celebrate and watch the game as well, and maybe do it together. Have a great day of hockey. Enjoy game number 2. Back with you on Tuesday afternoon, 3:30 p.m. Eastern Time.
Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis sends you to the biggest events at the best prices. This year, we partnered with Seat Giant to give you special deals on tickets to NHL games, concerts, or other events. Simply go to SeatGiant.com, find the tickets you want. When you check out, use the promo code TODD for a special discount. That's promo code TODD for a special discount. Start saving with SeatGiant.com on your next purchase. Get your business started getting more leads. 1-844-SEO-LEAD. The number to call if you want more online leads for your business is 1-844-SEO-LEAD. Search engine optimization can be the difference between success and failure. It's no coincidence which businesses are listed first in Google searches. Call 1-844-SEO-LEAD. Now it's even easier to nominate your dog as the Hockey Unfiltered Dog of the Day. We do it every Saturday. Send us a photo on Twitter or now on Instagram with the hashtag HU Dog of the Day. We choose a winner every Saturday. That's simple. Now on Instagram or Twitter, send us the photo using the hashtag HU Dog of the Day, and your dog could be the one added to our gallery on the website and Facebook page. It's the Hockey Unfiltered Dog of the Day every Saturday. Cutting-edge design for manufacturing. Nova Product Design. Industrial design. Mechanical engineering and design. Nova Product Design provides experienced design for parts and assemblies, manufacturing, assembly, and serviceability. From plastic parts to sheet metal forming, mold and tool design, injection molding, and more. Nova Product Design. Visit novaproductdesign.com to learn more. So you had to get groceries, take your daughter to dance class, and a pipe burst in the kitchen. You missed Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis. No problem. All of our shows are available as a podcast right after the show airs, so you can listen when life gets in the way of hearing us live. Subscribe through iTunes and get alerts as soon as the podcast is available, or go to our website, hockeyunfiltered.com, and listen. Plus, check out the other cool stuff. The Hockey Unfiltered with Todd Lewis podcast. Subscribe now through iTunes.